Okay, so in theory, you were already joining the meeting, but you're gone, so you can come back now. Well, you're not on the Zoom call, even though I've got an email saying you were. Apparently, and Hugo is. Okay, I'm hanging up. I'm hanging up. Hi.
Hello.
Hi there.
Okay, you can hear me. Good.
Laura, hi Chris.
Hi.
Hi, Hugo.
How are you two doing?
Oh, hanging in there. Let's see. I'll try to get more light.
It's been a heck of a day, Hugo. Just a heck of a day. And Chris, I bet you haven't seen all your emails today.
I've seen a bunch of them, but
About the HBOZ fees.
I did see that, and I'm going to act on it, and as soon as this meeting's over.
Right, and the good news is, in terms of acting on it, the lemonade type of good news is that LA City Council Plum Committee's technology went to crap, and they had to cancel the meeting.
Good. Now,
People
how does
have
that
time
even
to comment on this?
How does that even come out of Plum without advance notification to people? How can it be in front of City Council for a vote without some heads up?
Right. I mean, we really can't talk about it at this meeting because it's not on the agenda. And the only thing I can say is, I can say two things, and for those not knowing what we're talking about, it's the fee schedule that had been proposed by the planning department suddenly was on a city council agenda today, committee agenda, with massive changes that did not match what had been sent out to everybody to review. But that meeting was, hand of God, I suppose, canceled because the audience couldn't hear the audio. And so the city attorney told them to cancel the meeting. So it will be repeated on April 6th.
And certainly will impact economic development in this area because many people actually, I mean, it's a huge hit, yes, if it goes through.
So Chris, I can make you and/or Hunter and/or Hugo co-hosts. You want to be, who wants to be the co-host? I guess it's Chris.
I'll try. I have to learn how to do all that, but I'll try.
Right. So, well, what it involves is, oh, who said that? Hugo?
That was me, Hugo.
Do you also want to be a co-host? It's okay.
Yeah, I'll try how to do it.
Because in a small meeting like this, it doesn't necessarily matter who's co-host. What I have learned is that what I can't do is run two meetings at once on a single license. So I'm always the host, and but I often walk away and just turn my video off and turn my microphone off. Now, what's interesting is I have a little mute, something showing that I'm mute even though I'm not. So there is some Zoom technology issue going on today. You guys can hear me nattering, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Even though all I'm doing is nattering. All right. So so for those who just got designated co-hosts, and I'm making all of you pretty much co-hosts, because why not? If what it really means is, I will undo this if we end up with 30 people. So what this means is nobody's going to be able to raise their hand with a little blue button. So you need to raise your hand virtually or click on a reaction or just type up. There's only 5 people here. But you can see the waiting room. And what that means is you can admit people. It doesn't have to just be me, letting people in, but we don't have anyone in the waiting room. And it's 6:33. Do you want to call your meeting to order and have me post the agenda for approval or not? Or you want to wait?
I'm looking at the agenda now. I don't I don't know what we would wait for. Are we waiting for people?
Well, I don't know if we're waiting for any people because it's the first meeting. I don't
Okay.
think we have to wait for people. It's just up to you guys.
No, it's up to you, really. I mean, I
No,
don't really.
I'm really not the chair. That would be Chris and Hugo officially. What do you guys want to do?
I think we should start our meeting.
Okay. Okay. So what I will share the screen. I realize I have more things open than I wanted to. But so technically for each meeting, the first order of business is, assuming you can see the shared screen, is welcome and call to order introductions, approval of the agenda. Not necessarily in that order, but you know what I do at planning and zoning is I say, hello everybody, my name is Laura Myers and I am the chair of UNNC's Planning and Zoning Committee, and I'm on the board of UNNC, and I live in Angeles Vista. So I am not the chair of the Economic Development Committee, but other than that, that's my introduction. And I want to turn this to Chris.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Carlson, and I'm co-chair with Hugo of the, I believe that's what we're doing, of the economic, the UNNC Economic Development Committee. And I live in Western Heights, and I want to pass it over to Hugo to introduce himself as well. It's
Okay.
Hugo.
Hello, I'm Hugo Rodriguez. I'm co-chair of the Economic Development Committee. I used to live in Angeles Vista up until around a month or two ago. That's it.
That you're still our favorite non-resident stakeholder.
Still a stakeholder.
Still a stakeholder.
Yeah.
Or one of our favorites, can't play favorites.
So we want to open the meeting and welcome everyone, and let's see.
And approve the agenda.
First thing is to approve the agenda, and the agenda should be on the screen in front of you. And do we just do a vote by hands to approve?
Yeah, you just do a motion, second vote by
So
voice.
We have it's a fairly short agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as written?
I'll make a motion.
That was
Hunter.
Hunter. Okay, Hunter makes the motion. Do we have a second? Do we need a second, Laura?
You do.
Do we have a second?
Okay.
Okay. We have was that Hugo on a second?
Yeah.
Okay, so all in favor of approving the agenda as written, raise your hand or
Aye.
put the little reaction button so you can have a little hand, or just say aye.
Yeah. Aye.
okay.
Aye.
All right, we're unanimous approval. So with the approval of the minutes, the first thing up is public comments. And we have, is there anyone who is here who'd like to make a public comment at this time? Hugo has his hand up.
Oh, sorry about that. I just didn't put it down.
Is there anyone in attendance who wishes to make a comment?
So I'll do a semi comment because I forgot to say a part of our introduction is maybe not pertinent tonight, but just in case people join the meeting. The way UNNC has set up our committee structure, we appoint our chairs and sometimes our co-chairs, but we do not appoint other members of the committee. Our committee structures are to encourage people who are not on the board, our stakeholders, to also participate in our meetings. So for the purposes of all of our standing committees, with the exception of executive committee, any stakeholder in the room or in the Zoom room currently is a member of the committee for the duration of that meeting. and you may vote, you may make motions, you can fully participate in the discussion. And also we ask that everyone follow the required code of conduct, be respectful to each other, don't try to speak over each other, and please, under normal circumstances, raise your hand and await the chair, to be recognized. So that's my public comment, since I forgot to say it at the beginning.
An important comment, and not hardly a semi-comment, very important for us to extend to the community. So let's see, next up is, we need to, first order of business beyond comments is to review our mission statement and code.
Yeah, goals. So Chris, did you have, Chris, do you have any thoughts or anything written to review, or should I utilize the chat function to sort of type down whatever thoughts you guys have?
Well, there is a previous existing mission statement. Can we share that on the screen?
Yeah.
And then use that as a talking point to maybe modify
Okay.
or edit?
I'm gonna have to go find it unless you
Okay.
have it. So give me a minute, because I obviously sent something to you about it, so I have it somewhere.
Right. And while we're waiting for that to come up on the screen, maybe we could just go through the people present and they could share any thoughts they might have brought about mission statement. Is that
Yeah, because this is really actually so one sentence in the yeah, so let me just get it zoomed up, and I will share it in a sec, because it's in the middle of a bunch of others, so I want to kind of make it stand alone and not bring up everybody else's.
And just for background, while we're waiting for that to come up on the screen, of the people who are present, are there any active businesses represented by the people who are currently present within the
I
unit?
don't, I mean, I don't have a brick and mortar business. I have a
Have to be,
couple
yeah.
of other businesses.
Oh, it doesn't have to be brick and mortar. So Hunter, what sort of businesses are you engaged in?
I do civic consulting, I do restaurant consulting, and I am a registered lobbyist.
All right.
Okay, am I bringing up are you guys seeing what the screen that
Not
says?
yet, Laura. Not seeing anything.
Yeah, I'm having a little
Yeah,
trouble here, because I think I keep bringing up a different here. What I'm gonna do is close the agenda, because I think I'm thinking my computer is wanting to bring up the wrong thing. So tell me if I'm
Hugo,
down.
what about your thoughts or background that as relates to our Economic Development Committee?
Okay. Are you guys seeing this now?
Not yet, no.
No, not yet. I don't have a mission specifically, but some of the goals that I was thinking that would be good to focus on would be to help improve current businesses in our area, and just kind of push for the people in our community to just shop locally, and to strengthen the list of restaurants nearby that Laura was already working on. So I think that was really great, and I think it would be great to just continue improving that, and so I guess that's one of like my top 3 goals, just to help improve current businesses. I remember in the last governing board meeting, there was someone from a bid from the Byzantine Quarter.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure if we have an equivalent. Or I think Washington, some of the stores on Washington were thinking of doing that, but I'm not too familiar. But I think it would be good maybe if we could try that in many places in the UNNC boundaries.
And those are all good. Paul, what about you? Something that you, a special interest you bring tonight?
Not really, just my curiosity. Actually, can you hear me okay? I think I'm
I
off.
can.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you, Paul.
I mean, I'm really just curious, sort of the history of this committee and kind of some of the ideas that have been tried before and weren't successful, or maybe some ideas that were tried before that were successful. And then I think I think it was Hugo who brought up the point of, I guess, essentially a focus for the committee, which is, do we focus on existing businesses, or do we try to do something that will bring in new businesses? I guess I fall on the side of, trying to do things to support existing businesses, because if you create a good business environment for those that are already here, that's going to be an encouragement, or maybe an incentive for other businesses to come here. So that's really sort of my thoughts at this point.
Okay. One of
Chris, I was not able really to share the screen, so I've just posted.
popped up there briefly and then it went away. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? It's this one sentence I just put in chat.
Yeah. So it's a very brief mission statement about reaching out and interacting with the businesses, beautification, and I think it's disappeared. So what's the third thing?
Improving our business corridors.
Improving our business corridors. And in terms of historically what's been done in the past, and Laura can correct me and add on, is that there was a concerted effort to focus on the business corridors. Washington maybe is the centerpiece of that. With first, one of the big things that we did some years ago was to set up signage on the light post to actually identify the boundaries of UNNC, to help try to build a sense of identity and shared interest and concerns within the business community, that there was this entity that might be able to partner with them, and just as an info piece. Many of those they were a fabric banner. Many of them have gone the way of high winds and weather, and in addition to that, there was an extensive tree planting effort with tree wells that had protective enclosures that had Washington Boulevard identified on them. And I walked part of Washington today, and the trees themselves are for the most part doing well. The tree enclosures, not so much. Many of them have gotten tilted. Many of the identification plaques that say Washington Boulevard are missing or have deteriorated. So in terms of beautification, one of the things we might need to do is put some effort in maintaining some of the improvements that we've already put out there. They certainly could use some attention. Are there other things, Laura, you want to examine?
Yeah, hang on a second though, I'm doing a count. Hang on. 9:30, 11, 12, okay, so on the banner program, it apparently was changed about 4 or 5 years ago. We had banners throughout the UNNC area, but each neighborhood had its own, like Angeles Vista, Western Heights, and every neighborhood was named on individual banners. So when it was very expensive, when the winds came and they got damaged to keep them up. So apparently, I don't remember this, we redesigned the banners, and these hang from the street light poles. Redesigned them to say UNNC, something like UNNC celebrates its historic neighborhoods or something like that. So we have 35 blocks supposedly in our neighborhood council footprint where these banners still are flying. We just renewed that motion at city council, and therefore the contract with AAA banners, that there's up for till next March. I mean, we have the locations free. Washington Boulevard is no longer on the list. And I do think a task that really needs to be done is someone to drive the specified blocks. I now have a list. I just have had it for a few days, and see if our banners really are there, or are we just, in other words. But if they are not, in theory, they put up 114 banners somehow on these 35 blocks several years ago. My hunch would be we don't have 114
No,
banners
no.
flying, but I could be wrong. But somebody should, this committee took care of that. So that was
Okay.
one thing.
Right.
So maybe ideally we can make a request for somebody to just drive around in the next month. Because honestly, if they're gone, we need to pay for new ones to be made. I mean, they'll still go up for free because the install portion of it is just a guarantee. But if there are no banners in inventory, we would need new ones. And then the Economic Development Committee also did the Walk on Washington event 2 years in a row. And we were scheduled to do it in 2020, obviously did not schedule it for 2021. I have mentioned multiple times my idea, but we didn't have this committee. But one of the neighborhood councils on the west side had a very similar event called Pick Pico, and happened to be the same day as our Walk on Washington. The same idea, where we get the businesses to open their doors on a Saturday and hopefully give away little doodahs, and we make a very festive atmosphere. We have some music, we have this, and we had a stretch of Washington and essentially western to Crenshaw. It was a little bit west of Western. So Pick Pico had the same COVID crisis we did. They had a very similar event, but much older and huge, like 10,000 people. And they pivoted immediately to a website that's basically the same thing, Pick Pico or whatever.com. And I don't know how they were able to do it, because it basically is promoting all the businesses. And I don't know if that is something strictly legit for a neighborhood council to do, but it seems like a really good thing to have done in a time when those businesses are really struggling, and they expanded it beyond Pico Boulevard once it did virtual. So, but anyway, so we have that Walk on Washington, and I think we should do it again. And the trees, UNNC is working on replacing the trees that are dead in the tree wells on all the commercial corridors. And so the environmental committee, so I guess I should back up. The tree committee used to be part of economic development, but the tree, it's the same person. It was Andrea Dunlop. And then it got transferred by us into the environmental committee quite properly. And that does seem to be where it should go. But the committee members have developed a really great map and grid of all the empty tree wells, not just on Washington, but on Western, Jefferson, Crenshaw. I mean, they're looking at all the commercial corridors, and I think they've mapped out more than 70 what look like tree wells that are plantable. The difficulty being, if there's stumps in those tree wells, they're not as plantable. So, that's not aside from this committee. It's like some of our committees will have to work jointly, I guess. And indeed, the Planning and Zoning Committee is taking the same issue up tomorrow night, because some of the identified empty tree wells are like right by developments that had mandatory trees. It's like, where are the trees? So this needs to be sort of a collaboration with lots of people. But anyway, the planting of trees did start with the Economic Development Committee, to Paul's question.
And now that it's a separate entity, would the maintaining and refurbishing that signage that to the boulevard and the tree enclosures be part of their undertaking? Because maybe
I don't Yeah, I don't think so. I think those enclosures might have been part of the problem, not part of the solution, but I don't know enough about trees. I think the enclosures were actually put in by Council District 10 and not by UNNC.
But they were proposed and kind of coordinated with the business committee at the
They
time.
could easily have been, I wasn't paying the kind of attention I'm paying now to all the nuances of UNNC because land use was always my passion. And I've now broadened my horizon, but I don't know where those metal cages came from. I mean, that would be a question if you know Andrea Dunlap. So the people who were involved with Economic Development Committee over the years were Andrea Dunlap, Jessica Bravo, Denise Jackson. I mean, you know, they were kind of the prime movers over time. And it would be nice if we could reach out to them. I think Denise still lives here. I don't think either Andrea, I know Andrea moved away and I think Jessica may have as well. I mean, she was always a few blocks out, but I think she may have moved farther. So I don't know, but we should check in with them and see if they can get back involved for a while.
Okay.
To give
I
direction.
want to, Nancy Cruz has joined us. I want to encourage Nancy to speak out. We're addressing potential goals of the Economic Development Committee.
Oh, okay.
Welcome, Nancy.
Thanks.
Do you bring any ideas for tonight's meeting in the sort of to a mission focus or goals?
Yes, no, I mean, I think my main concern is around the small businesses, and something that was brought up, I think, in the last governing board meeting that we were part of, where they were giving the statistics as to, you know, the fact that a lot of the small businesses in our neighborhood are not getting access to the PPP loan or other resources that are available. And I don't know where the disconnect is, and trying to understand that so that we're able to be more of a connector, because I think the information is out there and the resources are out there. It's just, you know, making them more accessible.
Okay, so you guys, I'm starting to just take some notes and throw them into the chat for better or worse. Okay, so I'm writing that down. So it doesn't surprise you. I'm just telling you what I'm doing.
I don't know a whole lot about the ins and outs of the PPE, but I do know that one of the hurdles in the first round of PPE business loans was that if you worked with a larger banking entity, those banking entities were very well positioned to process the paperwork, and so bigger businesses and the like had a real first in best dressed advantage on the first round of PPE under the Trump administration.
Yes.
My understanding is that within this next COVID emergency relief package, if passed under Biden, there's a sizable carve out specifically for smaller businesses, 20 employees less, or even single purveyor, people who run their consulting business, who are single operators. And it's a set aside within the next round of PPE business loans specifically to target small businesses, 20 employees or less, even down to single operators. Now, I don't know if there's a way that we can make sure if that passes, that information might be readily available on our website, so businesses have a way to know when the deadlines are and how to start that application process and to participate in this next round.
Yes.
I have information specific to the PPP program. I work at a bank.
Great.
I think there's a couple of issues with the program in terms of being able to help small businesses anywhere, and much less in our own community, which is, I mean, just the experience. You alluded to the fact that the larger banks, you know, they have departments and processes in place that can, you know, more quickly handle the processing of the application and submitting it to the SBA. But the reality is they focus on their best customers. And if you're not one of their, you know, their defined best customer, you get shuffled to the bottom of the deck. And so most small businesses, their best experience has been going to credit unions and the much smaller banks where they can actually get more personalized service. And each bank will be different in how they want to engage with the SBA and this program. Some banks will only submit applications for existing clients. That's the case of my bank, just because we don't have the capacity to take on new clients unless we think there's an economic incentive for us to do so. And then, so really the issue I'm describing here is that we could theoretically provide help in the form of information to the business community here, but ultimately we're going to be, a directional, compass saying go to this bank, go to that bank, because once we do that, then they're going to have to engage with the bank or the credit union and their systems and rules and so on and so forth. So I'm not saying that we can't be a help. I'm just saying that we need to identify sort of what the bottlenecks are and then what we can do to help the small businesses get around the bottleneck.
Yes,
Laura?
I think,
Oh, sorry, Laura's hand's up. I can't see your hand, Nancy.
oh, sorry, go.
Okay, well, Laura's gonna say two things. One, I worked with one of our local business people. It was very easy for him to, in the very first round, to get a PPP loan, but it's only because he had a CPA who was eager to get all of that CPA's clients into the system. And that guy bent over backward to work, in other words, the business owner did nothing. He just agreed to write a check to the CPA. The CPA was able to go get through all the forms. They're very complicated. I wonder if we as a neighborhood council should take a look at the state and local and metro loan and grant programs for our small businesses. Because how do we get, it doesn't sound like they've had easy access even to that. The PPP is basically a loan program that then can convert to a grant, but you have to be able to pay, you have to have a payroll to pay. And the payroll can be yourself, but if you've not been specifically writing yourself a paycheck regularly, then it's really hard to get a payroll protection plan loan. So one of our tenants has a little retail business. She could never access this because she just took cash when she needed it. She didn't actually pay herself a payroll, so she didn't have a couple of years of payroll to base a new payroll application on. So I'm thinking all these grants that they keep coming up with are the ones we should maybe figure out how to help our businesses gain access to.
Nancy's got her hand up. Nancy?
Yes, no, I agree with that, Laura. Especially for our immigrant businesses, they just handle a lot of cash. And I think what I'm thinking about is, just providing the information of all of the various programs that they are, so that they know what's out there. So more of an information portal of some sort.
Paul, is that something that you could kind of help steer with the knowledge background you have in banking and your prior experience?
Yeah, I think I could. I mean, I guess I should talk with you, Nancy, after the meeting at some point this week, just to get some ideas. I mean, I know there are resources out there already. The question is what makes sense for our community, and then where would we be presenting this information, and how would we be getting it into the hands of local business owners,
So I'm posting another thing. I hope you guys are following my little chat. Another goal would be to research information about resources. There should be and business grants especially, and communicate the results to our business owners, stakeholders. That's inelegant, but is that what we're talking about?
Yep. Okay.
Nancy has her hand up.
Hand up. And then Hugo.
Yes. And the other thing that, this is a loftier goal, is just, really understanding what our small businesses need. So maybe surveying them in some way, you know, what information do they just generally need in terms of so that's one goal. I'm still, you know, I haven't developed that one as much, but just like surveying them as to figure out what needs they have and how can UNNC help. And then the second thing is similar to, I guess, what Pico is doing, highlighting our small businesses on our Instagram or social media accounts. You know, whenever one of us frequents a small business, you know, highlighting them on social media.
Hugo is next, I think.
I agree with both the things that Nancy just said. And yeah, I think well, first it would be great, Paul, if you could do that. And I think one issue right now, well, with the entire timeline of the pandemic, is that there's always so much information being thrown out that it's kind of hard to find just like the correct place or like the correct portal to know where all the information is. So I think maybe just kind of having, just kind of saying like, this is the information that you're gonna need, might be better than having to reinvent. If that information is already out, which I'm assuming it is. And then I also wanted to add that I had some ideas about beautification as well that I just wanted to kind of comment on. So I think the progress with the trees um, would with the stuff that was being pushed by, I forget who it was, but she wanted she was in the process of getting trees planted along, I think, Jefferson.
Yeah, that's a group. Yeah, that's Lizzie, Dolores, Helen, and Audrey Arlington.
Okay,
It's
and
a
that one's
group
not
of people.
necessarily okay. That's not necessarily part of economic development, but I guess it
Correct.
kind of coincides with it. Okay. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
thinking,
these projects are moving forward. It definitely coincides with it, but they're
right.
just being moving forward in the other committee because at this point it's about really how to do it and where to do it. Not should we do it, which would be economic development. Because I think the answer is yeah, we should.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking if we're gonna do something to improve the beauty of the neighborhood, we can also start with things that are free as well. You know, if you know if we can't do other things as easily, um, so I think something like helping to remove the graffiti from a lot of the stores nearby would be pretty good because I've been seeing uh, a lot more graffiti than before, especially on the gates, like when the businesses lock up and then they roll down the gates. I'm not sure what they're called. Yeah, and those are kind of hard because when the city employees remove them, obviously they can't do it during the regular business hours because they roll them back up. Um, but you do see them at night, and they do kind of change the character. You know, when you're walking by there or when you're driving by there at night. You know, and so I think if graffiti can be removed, it can make a huge impact on the way people perceive the businesses. So I just wanted to mention that.
Hey, Laura, this is Hunter. I have a question. I can't raise my hand for some reason.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
just jump in. Oh, I can unco-host you. Then you can raise your hand.
No, I'm driving, so it's not
Oh.
necessary. I'll just pipe up. I have a couple questions, and I apologize if this has already been discussed.
Go for it.
But you know, I'm new to the UNNC anyway, and so some of this might be common knowledge to other members, but it isn't to me, and I'm trying to figure this out. number one, is there the purview of our organization is resident focused? Is that incorrect?
Say again?
Is the
The
purview
purview
of UNNC
of-
resident focused? Is that correct? In other words, does UNNC as an organization have a priority focus on residents?
No.
No.
No,
over
no,
other-
no. Stakeholders include the business owners, the workers, people who attend
Okay.
churches here, people who attend
Got it.
schools or their parents.
Not strictly residential.
That's fine. And again, that wasn't a rhetorical question. That was an honest question because
No, it's a
I
good
don't
question.
really know. So thank you for clarifying. I appreciate that. Second question, is there no business improvement district in our area? I know that the gentleman from the Byzantine Latino Quarter was on last month, but I don't quite frankly know what he does really.
Oh,
or what
okay, I
organization
can
he
answer that a little bit. I can answer a little bit. So the Byzantine Latino Quarter bid does include a portion of our area up at Pico and Normandy. Little teeny piece, but a piece. There is
Okay.
a dead or dying, I don't know if there's still money there or not, Jefferson Boulevard bid. Moises, who's the one who came, he works for Lonnie, Los Angeles Neighborhood Initiative. So his job with Lonnie is to do multiple bids. So they're working on a BID for Adams Boulevard, but west of us. And it would not make sense to make Adams Boulevard an economic, a bid in our footprint, except for that last block and a half from Montclair to Crenshaw. And I did suggest to him that if they're going to do Adams Boulevard, they should try and just, it doesn't have to be by neighborhood council lines, so it should go those 2 blocks to include the 2 blocks of Adams between Crenshaw and Montclair. And it would be interesting if we could figure out how to revive the Jefferson Boulevard bid, but Lonnie had funded it in the first place. And so the answer is, I don't know if that's totally dead or just really, really, really dormant. There is no Pico bid, and there is no Washington Boulevard bid, and there is no Crenshaw Boulevard bid.
Okay, so Lonnie, and again, thanks for the information. Lonnie is what? What do they do?
Los Angeles Neighborhood Initiative. They raise money and then they give it away. Let me see. I've got their website open. I will go look and see if they have their own mission statement. Mostly, like they're partnering on a lot of the tree planting things, for example. So they're not totally about bids, but apparently they do have a thing with bids. So let's go see.
Okay, and this gentleman you mentioned,
That's
works
the guy
for
who
Lonnie.
came to our last meeting
Okay, and his job is to form bids?
and run them. He's the executive director of the Byzantine Latino Quarter bid. I'm trying to find this. I can't tell you how many. I could tell you, but I'm not.
Give me the website. It's okay.
Yeah, no. I'm saying I'm not going to tell you how many windows I have open. That's creating this problem with me finding what it is. So I'm in Lonnie now on the web, and what we do, who we are, what we do. It's loading very slowly. So one of the things they don't do is have an easy website.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just looking for some exposition, really. Okay, so there's not really a bid in our area to speak of, and
Well, if you mean the heart of our area, no, obviously.
Yep. That's a fair statement. No bid in the heart of our area.
and what would you describe as the heart of our area?
Washington and Western, Washington and Arlington, it's physical heart. And then, but Jefferson Boulevard has a bid. It's just nobody's running it and money is sitting somewhere. I know that's not a good answer.
No, I get it. That happens. So I understand bids very well. I run one in Santa Monica. And like, I think bids are a good vehicle to accomplish a lot of these goals. Like Hugo said, though, there's a lot of graffiti. There's a lot of trash. There's a lot of vagrancy. And, you know, at the end of the day, I've been a small business advocate for years, and I can tell you that planting tree, I mean, listen, it all helps, but planting trees and tree wells isn't going to resuscitate essentially a dying business community. What's really going to help are things that are being worked on a macroeconomic level, at the city level and at the county level, and to some degree the state, when it comes to relaxing permitting, you know, speeding up the permitting process, making it cheaper, removing a lot of these draconian barriers that come with planning and zoning, which I'm sure you're well aware of. You know, forming organizations like BIDS to help do some of the heavy lifting with some of this stuff. Don't get me wrong, I love trees, but you know, I don't want to propagate the myth that planting trees is going to bring businesses to an area. It won't. You know, we need to find a way to kind of galvanize our new city council members' office to actually take a vested role in cleaning up some of the vagrancy and some of the illegal activity that, quite frankly, happens just out in the wide open on Sunday afternoons at Washington and Western. I mean, there's still street racing going on every Sunday, last I checked, and nobody's done anything about that. So, you know, if I'm a business owner, I'm not going to open a business in this neighborhood ever, because there's nothing's attractive about it. You know, it's kind of viewed as a lawless part of Los Angeles. That to me is the number one problem.
Duly noted. I think Nancy was next, and then Hugo, or did I miss? And then Laura. So
Oh, I was just gonna ask Laura, like, who was on the Jefferson bid? Like, is there anyone still active in the community who was part of that?
Well, there was a guy named Gus, and for a while he was even on our board, and I can't even remember his last name. I mean, it's kind of it's a bad story. You know, you look at the Figueroa bid, it's a good story. Jefferson Boulevard bid, bad story. It just got squandered. And again, I don't know how to go backwards to figure it all out. But interestingly enough, I got an email with sort of the same question just a week and a half ago from one of our stakeholders, because one thing the bid did do with Lonnie is put up those sort of silly, in a way, the Jefferson Park gateway signs at either end of the street in our area. They have
yes,
LED lights, and you know, that obviously didn't bring more business to Jefferson Boulevard either. Obviously, what's bringing business to these places is entrepreneurs who see a different vision.
okay, Hugo, I think next.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, well, Hunter seemed to have something to comment directly on that. You can comment.
Yeah, sorry, Hugo, real quick. So when you say the money was squandered, like, bids are actually legal entities. So if somebody acted negligently or whatever, there's a vehicle to recover that money. And when bids are wrapped up and they're dissolved, that money is either redistributed back to the community, not the community, but back to the people who invested in it or who paid dues to it, or there's the bylaws for that bid will dictate what happens to that money. So, like, who's in charge of that? Because if there's $100,000 sitting in an account somewhere, you know, that money should go either to the people who put it there in the first place, or it could be put to use.
Correct.
I mean, there's a way to resuscitate a bid that's essentially negligent.
Well, here's the question though. Is there a way for a neighborhood council to resuscitate a bid? And I don't know the answer. It's a clearly very good question and requires some additional research, because again, there's controversy with it. I just don't know off the top of my head who was angry and who was culpable, if you understand my point. I'm guessing,
I do.
I'm guessing folks like Dolores Spears and Rosie that know something about it and might be able to follow up. These are recently former board members who are still involved in some ways with us. So for one of our goals, sounds like we want to do is follow up on status of Jefferson Park PID and explore the possibility of creating viable, a viable or more than one viable, a viable PID within UNNC or more than one. Does that sound like a goal?
Yeah,
talking
it
about?
does. I mean, it does. Forming a bid takes a long time. It usually
Sure.
takes about 1.5 to 2 years. So if it's an option to just resuscitate or rev it up, that's way more preferable than just starting a new one. I
Okay,
assure you.
I'm hoping
But
I
yeah,
just
I
spelled
think
that
that's fair.
correctly. Resuscitate. I may have spelled that correctly, or resuscitate.
Okay, sorry to interrupt you, Hugo, but thank you for catching that. I had a quick question about that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. It's always a little hard to communicate on Zoom and neighborhood council. So what I was gonna say was basically I think it would be good if Pico had a bid, but one issue that I think might pop up was that the north part of Pico, I don't think it's considered part of UNNC.
It's
If-
not
It's not, right? And
correct.
so, yeah, I'm not sure what we can do to work something out, maybe with the, I don't know, country club, or no, Olympic Park
Yeah, possibility
neighborhood
of,
council.
yeah, I'm writing that down, partnering with OPNC to,
Yeah,
I'm just gonna
because
say
a lot of
improve
the,
Pico Boulevard. Because some of this may or may not be a bid to improve Pico Boulevard's commercial
right,
status.
yeah, I guess it would be good to find out if they have one. Well, I mean, Pico is kind of shared.
Kind
but
of
it-
exactly true.
yeah.
Yes.
If,
Yeah, and yeah, a lot of the stores there, they're visited by people in UNNC boundaries. And with some of them that I've gone through over the years, I've gone to Pico a lot and Washington, and Pico and Washington mostly. And I think it would be really good to have some kind of some kind of real sense of companionship between all of those Pico, even if they may be on the north or the south side, because ultimately they still get the same customers from our neighborhood council. So
I think, do we lose Hugo's?
yeah, that was it for me.
Okay. I would like to, it's pertinent. I received an email from one of our community business owners, and because I reached out because we were restarting, and I said, what are your concerns as a business owner? And it's very brief, but I'll share. This is from Steve Wallace, who owns Start Gallery on Venice, just immediately east of Western. And he says, thanks for reaching out. For Eileen and I, the number one priority by far is cleaning up the commercial corridors. Newer businesses are hesitant to locate here because our area looks like a slum. I'm reading it directly. I toured the area a couple years ago with the number 2 guy from Caruso affiliated, the Grove, Americana, and the Broad, et cetera, because it was about trying to promote new business in this area. And he bluntly told me as we passed the intersection of Western and Washington Boulevard that the area looked way too trashy for them to invest in. It still has not improved. Shame on Western and shame on those businesses that don't care. Trash, graffiti, and commercial businesses that don't take care of their footprint at all, or what their exterior buildings look like. You know the drill. It's very frustrating. Mason Bendervald and I were exploring the expansion of the Latino Byzantine bid, which is the point we were talking to Venice from Normandy, and to Western, but that has stalled. I would love, all caps, to see the city put pressure on property and businesses owners to properly maintain and I will take one word out, their properties, okay? So that's from a business owner, and I think it summarizes a lot of the concerns that were expressed here. But apparently there are some, at least initial efforts that to expand that Byzantine Latino bid deeper into our core business areas. And maybe that's something that we could reach out and try to help that process move forward if it can, and help it find legs, as well as maybe resuscitating the bid on Jefferson, because there's already some entity there to start to work with.
Real quick, and I'm sorry, again, I'm driving, so I can't see who's raising their hand. So I don't mean to butt in front of anybody. But a couple of things you said. I know Steve pretty well, and he's 100% correct. The area looks like, pardon my French, looks like shit, and it needs to be cleaned up. But there's two different kinds of bids, okay? There's a property-based assessment, and then there's a business-based assessment. Historically, property-based assessments, so a PBID, a property-based assessment, a property business improvement district, they're a lot more long-term oriented. So that's when you get the property owners to throw in to fund an organization. They're a lot more long-term thinking in nature. They're way more interested in cleaning up the infrastructure of an area. Think clean and safe, lighting, sound, widening sidewalks, pressure washing, street cleaning, things like that. A business-based bid is always going to be more short-sighted in nature. They're only interested in what's in it for me today, whether it's promotion or like having events or things like that. So they're different from a focus standpoint, right? And so just hearing what you're all saying and knowing the area well enough myself, I think that a property-based assessment district is going to be way more impactful in the long run than a business-based bid, if that makes sense.
I didn't even know there was that distinction. Thank you for sharing.
There is, yeah, and they're very different. It is also possible to do both. You can layer bids, so you can have a P bid and a business-based bid at the same time. Downtown Santa Monica, for example, is that. We have a property-based assessment and a business-based assessment, and that's a lot, it's a lot more effective, obviously. But when you look at the kinds of businesses that exist in our area, they're all short-term thinkers, right? There's like little, restaurants, or there's a little like a food shop or a cell phone store. These are not people who are invested really in the community, with the exception of some of the, the bakeries and the restaurants. They're a little bit more long-term. But the other tenants are just very fly-by-night, short-term. They don't really care. They're not going to put in their time or money or energy to beautify the neighborhood. Why should they? They're just employed. I mean, there's no incentive there. But the property owners do have an incentive.
Yeah, the underlying property owners that leases, often these strip malls, these little storefronts, those, many of them have been property owners in this area for a very long time. And all of these tenants are paying leases, and maybe there's a way to try to put pressure on the underlying property owners to step up on these issues of maintenance and graffiti. And Laura?
Yeah, so I'm going to be all over the place. So first of all, I heard the remarks about tree planting won't bring business. That's probably the reason why it's now in the environmental committee and not in economic development committee. So let's just leave it where it is. I just wanted to say we work together on some of this stuff. When Surface came here, and they're still not really on board, we begged them to not just, we thanked them for being here at 3rd and Washington, but they were not advertising that they were in the historic West Adams district. And they refused to do it. They still are not. Still they say Mid-City, even though they're not in Mid-City, because they think their customers won't come to West Adams. And certainly, and they occasionally will use the phrase Arlington Heights, and that's only because they think their customers don't know where that is. So that it sounds pretty. So somehow we need to, if more of the successful businesses would also say they're located in the, West Adams district, which they're not going to say they're located in UNNC because that would be even a more bigger unknown, but they're not embracing where they are. And it's hard to create a destination if no one is embracing the kind of marketing idea of the destination. So I don't know that that's our job at UNNC, but that's the thing. We have a local volunteer who does a lot of cleanups, right? Our old friend Chris. And his big bitch right now is that the businesses up and down Washington in particular are throwing their own trash into the city-owned trash cans on Washington Boulevard, which are not being picked up by anybody. So when our local business owner commented that the place looks trashy, he's not even looking at Washington Boulevard, which looks really, really trashy because the trash cans are overflowing and nobody's contracted to take away the trash. So that's a campaign. I'm going to sneeze in a moment. I apologize. Oh, excuse me. Really, excuse me. So I don't know if, again, do we do a campaign, flyer campaign or something, not tomorrow, with our local business owners, even about please throw away your own trash in your own trash cans. But that's another issue, I think, at this point. So that's it. I'm all over the place. I'm going to turn off my video and sneeze a little bit now. Sorry.
I've lost my video and I'm trying to figure out how to get it back on, so I can't see anybody right now.
Hugo has his-
Talking. I'm still talking. Your video, my video's gone on purpose so I can go sneeze.
Yep. Oh wait, I got it back. Sorry. Thank you. Does the city's, I know at times there have been coordinated meetings with someone from the city attorney's office with community groups and even senior leads to address overarching issues. So things like businesses improperly disposing of trash seems like more of a, is there some way, Laura, in your experience, that we can have a meeting with someone from the city district attorney's office to clarify the landscape of business operations, what's allowed, what's not allowed, and also maybe bring some voice for businesses that are trying to do the right thing, to hear from them, but give them a connection to the city entities that maybe can help better address some of their concerns. Is that doable? Am I wishful thinking here?
I'm so sorry. I'm not following you. What is your? I'm sure there's a good idea there. I'm missing it. Like what is your suggestion specifically?
It seems like both from our businesses themselves and members of the community, we're seeing some common hurdles. How trash is handled, how storefronts are maintained in terms of graffiti free, in terms of maybe issues of vagrancy or trash and filth that related to that impacts the business communities. Is there some way we could coordinate with our area senior leads and someone from the district attorney's office? Because I know there were some issues in the past where they had put up like a geographically defined task element to look at the issues and bring all the different city departments that can help move the needle on them coordinated to an area. Is that something?
Got it. Okay. No, I understand what you're saying. Like, and that's a complicated like process to do that. You're basically talking about galvanizing multiple city departments and neighborhood organizations and a bid if one exists. You know, we do a lot of that in Santa Monica, and it's hard, right? It takes a lot of work, a lot of communication, and the city, unfortunately, all city governments are broke right now. Their staffs are cut in half. They have limited time, so they're really prioritizing what they're doing. And so they're not going to do anything unless there's a concerted effort between businesses and residents to push for something. And so I'm super active on the West Side. I got involved in this organization because I haven't been active in my own neighborhood, which is, you know, what I'm trying to do now. Laura, this is for you. How active is our new city council office? I mean, are they helpful in general, or are they just,
Well,
you know, sitting there waving like the queen, pretending to do something when in reality they don't do anything?
well, they're only half staffed up, number one. I think they're now becoming not just more active, but realizing that they have to do more than just, you know, Mark Ridley Thomas's key focus is homelessness, and you know, and he ran on that, and so we shouldn't be surprised that that's what he's focused on. But there were several months when the prior council office sort of was slowing down, and there's so many now. I want to say virtual fires to put out, and unfortunately actual fires that have burned down homes in our community, too many. So they're all over the place. I mean, Chris and I and John Arnold met with some of the staff yesterday, right, Chris? So
Yeah.
I mean, I do feel they're trying to get become aware of all the things that they now are responsible for, because they cannot just do political messaging, because they've got to cut trees and fix sidewalks and take care of all the things that a council office constituent service center takes care of. But they're not really up to snuff yet. In answer to your question.
Yeah. I mean, a little. Yeah. I mean, it's really, it's funny because the pandemic has really illustrated to John Q. Citizen just how ineffective some government offices are. Because when it comes time to actually do something, they're woefully inept. They don't have the manpower. They don't have the budget. And even if they did, they wouldn't know how to organize everybody. So like that's why organizations like BIDS are so effective, because they step in when government falls short. And I think now that's now is a great time to be running a bid. I think now is a good time to form bids. Now is a good time to sell bids to a community as not to actually sell them, but you know, to pitch them as a good vehicle to getting some of this stuff done. Because you're talking about street sweeping, sidewalk cleaning, all that. The city's not going to do that ever. They're never going to do that. So who's going to do that? Well, property owners who have an incentive in cleaning up their neighborhood, because in the end, their property values will go up.
Well, here's Hugo's had his hand up for quite a bit, even though we're having this conversation. So I'm hoping I'm not bothering him, but I did want to respond kind of directly. What our neighborhood has had is city contracts with the LA Conservation Corps and with KYCC. And before the pandemic, they were doing the graffiti cleanup, the trash pickup, etc. And now it seems that a good deal of their energy is going to delivering food. This is not a bad thing. This is a good thing. I mean, you know, helping feed those who are hungry, to put it in very simple terms, but delivering the boxes of food, etc. So, you know, it's really hard to know who is really responsible and can it be replaced by a bid. In terms of council offices, I actually am on the email list for lots of them. So I would say it feels like Mitch O'Farrell and Karen Price and Gil Cedillo are doing a great deal of work with keeping their corridors clean and feeding people and getting masks on people doing all kinds of work, but it may not be that they're doing more than anyone else. It may be that they have better newsletters, to be honest. So, our current council staff does not actually have
News.
a regular newsletter to tell us what they're doing. So, and again, I see that Hugo has his hand up, but I do one other thing. We have a new business owner, renter, it seems, took over the big warehousey space at 6th and Washington on the northeast corner. So it's some sort of flooring or carpet provider. And of course, he's got all kinds of stupid, ugly pallets sitting in the front and a lot of trash on the street. So I called and said, welcome to the neighborhood. We're so excited. Can you get rid of the pallets? And he starts screaming at me. He's going to run his business the way he wants to run his business. And I was probably not nice, but that is a problem. When you have a brand new business person in the neighborhood who spent X tens of thousands of dollars to refit a large physical structure, to immediately say, I'm going to fill my parking lot that you can see with crap and not pick up trash and not dig out the weeds. It's like, what kind of business owner are we attracting? Right there in the heart of Washington Boulevard. Anyway, Hugo does have his hand up.
Yes. Let's give Hugo a chance. Hugo?
Yeah, I'm very patient because I mean we're a small group, so I know you guys will eventually listen. Yeah, Laura, I agree with what you said right now. I feel a lot of times when new businesses come in, if it's someone that isn't necessarily a resident or that they've never really done stuff there, they may not feel the need to improve it, even though ultimately it does benefit them as well if the neighborhood looks nice, because more people are going to be going there. But I guess some people just don't really think too much about it. And the other thing I was going to mention was that I was going to say thank you, Hunter, for saying that the distinction uh, with the two types of bids. And I was kind of wondering, well, I kind of wanted to say it to you and to everyone also, that certain parts of our neighborhood council, they have different regions that already have like a specific character to the street. Um, so so next to us, along Vermont, from like Olympic down to Adams, it's the Salvadoran corridor that was officially made just a couple years ago. And one thing that they do is that they have a website. The website isn't. I'm not sure how often it's updated, but they say they're partners. I think they have some kind of plan. I'm not sure if it's a bid. But I know in that area, right in front of West Adams, they've had events that kind of focus on El Salvador and Central America, because there's a lot of people from those countries in that area. And I think that's like a really nice thing that they do, just to promote the businesses there, because I've been to them maybe 2 times there, and then I think one of them was held in MacArthur Park, and along Pico, from basically Normandy down to maybe a little before Crenshaw, there's a lot of Oaxacan restaurants, and I think there's a really strong Oaxacan character along Pico, and I think maybe Washington. I've seen like 1 or 2 stores, and then with Central American restaurants, there's not too many along Pico. I've been to like a few, there. But I think as for Pico, I think it would be nice to do something similar to the Salvadoran corridor, where they really take advantage of the character that's already present, and the customers that like to go to those stores, because there's a big Oaxacan population in the UNNC boundaries. And like I said last time, I'm not Oaxacan. I'm half Mexican, and I'm half Salvadoran. And so, those are kind of things that I think about and that I feel can kind of give a certain character, not just to the street, but the neighborhood council. Someone thinks of the neighborhood council, they can think, we have this, and parts of Jefferson and Adams, there's a lot more Black businesses there. And so I think it would be good for us to just really emphasize those places. Um, and Chris and I had a discussion a couple months ago about that, about really highlighting those minority-owned businesses. Um, so that's it from me.
I have my hand up. One of the, in kind of, one of the things I was thinking about in terms of the idea of how do we help our small businesses? How do we help recognize them? And in a time of COVID where it's very hard to have right now a walk on Washington type event where everyone comes out at the same time, I thought there might be a way to have something like a UNNC passport, right? Where it could be a digital passport where for a window of time, people, shop. If they shop local, they have some way to record that, and there's there's a way to showcase the businesses that want to participate, and there may be even a way to organize some a prize or something to the businesses or acknowledgement of the businesses that have the highest turnout over that period of time for but some way of sort of having a diffused shopping local event that allows us to maybe highlight our businesses and also get people out to utilize our businesses. It was just something, it's hard to know in COVID how you can bring people together these days. Laura?
Well, I think an easy jump start would be to make it even more informal. And by that, I mean, UNNC could simply announce, I mean, remember right at the beginning of the pandemic, maybe in April, it was Takeout Tuesdays, and this was across the nation, Takeout Tuesday, and it's disappeared. But why couldn't we start just a campaign, Takeout Tuesday, the plural, please visit our local restaurants on Tuesdays and take out food. We wouldn't have to have their buy-in. Well, they'd have to be open on Tuesday, but you know what I mean? It's like if we wanted to launch a campaign, Takeout Tuesday or Takeout Thursday or what, try out Tuesday. I mean, whatever. I mean, come up with something alliterative that we're just saying, and then have and just say, just visit your neighboring business, and then eventually come up with a list. I don't know how the West Side Neighborhood Council is able to do the sort of virtual wall that they're doing. Again, Pick Pico now they have the virtual Click Pico, and they're showcasing all their businesses, and it just feels like that's not something a neighborhood council should be allowed to do with its money, but it seems to be doing it because I just checked, the website's still up. But that's harder. I mean, it's harder for us to come up with a list and talk to the businesses and see if they would honor a passport. Not impossible, but not something you could do in 3 weeks' time, right?
No.
But it's like Dine LA the next 2 weeks, right? None of our local restaurants are participating in Dine LA, so I'm not gonna say let's post something about Dine LA and partake of the food for Dine LA here. We can't do that because we don't have anybody.
But we might, with some planning, be able to do a smaller version of Dine UNNC.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Without us necessarily listing the restaurant, I'm saying we may be able to do something to jumpstart this without us having to get buy-in and passports and participation, where we just say, just do it. Just do it. Here it is. I don't know. That may be a dumb idea. Or,
Laura, is there any city database about who our businesses are and what the business mix in the community?
You
Is there-
know, in theory, all of our businesses, not to mention anyone self-employed, would have paid their annual business tax registration on Sunday, 2 days ago. And yeah, there is a database. I don't know if it's broken up, if it can be accessed geographically.
There are business license databases that the city should be able to make available. They certainly do that in Santa Monica and other smaller cities. Los Angeles will have some vehicle to do that. I don't know about geographically, like you mentioned, but it's probably broken up in some way.
That's an interesting question. And luckily, the person who really can answer it is going to be talking to UNNC on Thursday at 6:30. I mean, the controller Ron Galperin, he's coming in to talk about the new equity index, LA equity index, but it is broken down by census tract. So why doesn't somebody raise their hand and just say, does it include or can it include the
I'm
local
on-
businesses?
I'll be responsible for asking that question.
Because he clearly has the ability to launch that data.
Because we need information, we need to
Right.
know more about our businesses to be able to, moving forward, coordinate any outreach and, we just need to have a better sense of how many businesses we're talking about, what the range of services there are, because we can't coordinate something that we don't even have a handle on very well.
Right.
It's hard to interface. So I'll ask that question to Galperin and see if we can get access to some of these
Yeah,
businesses.
because his answer may be not this one, but I have another one. But I mean,
Right.
this is what he does. He and his staff, this seems to be what they're doing every week, a new one. Why I asked him to talk about the equity index, I'd seen the presentation, but it talked, down to census tract level. He knows how many computers and internet households there are. So, I mean, the haves and haves not. So I would wonder, part of it is access to food. I mean, I'm looking back, because I just wrote this. Yeah, I mean, it's access to food. So probably that means restaurants, but as well as grocery stores, etc. But, he probably can get this answer pretty easily, frankly.
Paul's got his hand up. Paul?
Yeah, just could you tell us again what meeting this is? again?
Governing board on
Okay.
Thursday.
I guess
we
I don't have that.
I'm going to send out the e-blast, but I sent out an e-blast last night to everybody, just saying hold the date. Yeah, this Thursday, so 2 days from now, the 6:30 to 7 p.m. piece of our pre-meeting, when we gather without quorum and listen to a great presentation, hopefully every month, is Ron Galperin, the LA City Controller, and he's going to present the new LA Equity Index and map. So, I don't know if I can get the agenda out tonight because I'm not allowed to hit send till 10:30, and I don't know that I'll still be at the office at 10:30. So this might be an early morning email.
Fine.
Can
So-
I ask Hunter? Hunter is working on trying to gather business license and tax, the business databases together that exist. Is that something you could work with me on?
I'd be happy to make some phone calls and figure out who has that database.
Okay.
I don't know how LA does it. I could probably figure it out relatively quickly.
I'm sorry, I
would
know
probably-
who has the database. I just don't know how it's broken down. The Office of Finance has the database.
Which one?
Right.
Office of what?
City of Los Angeles Office of Finance
Finance. Okay.
has the database.
You know what I would do? Do you have a contact there
No,
at the Office of Finance?
yes.
Okay. I could email somebody I know in the Mayor's Office of Economic Development and
Yeah.
ask them if they have the ability to release those data. I mean, they're not just going to give some random person a business license database list. Now, if we framed it in such a way that, hey, we're UNNC and we're thinking about forming another bid, so we'd like the business list in this area, can you help us? That's different.
That'd be great.
Maybe they would be able to do that.
So sadly, it is public, right? I mean, in other words, they would have to give it to us if we asked. It's just, it may not be organized in a way that's useful for us.
Right. So for example, like the actual parts of it are public record. That's true. But some of the information, at least my understanding is that some of the information is not. For example, people's phone numbers and emails, which is like the most valuable part. Because if you want to contact them to do anything,
True.
that's where it gets kind of.
If you would take the initiative to reach out to your contact in the mayor's office, economic development, that'd be great. Do we need to vote on that?
I can do that. I mean, I don't know how fruitful that'll be, but I will certainly do that.
And Laura, is there someone in the new CD10 office that at least has the title of?
Not yet. Not yet.
Yeah, okay. If that happens, can you share that person's contact with us? And
Are we assuming it's a girl?
I already corrected myself mid-sentence on that their contacts, and we'll reach out in the same fashion through CD10 to again try to get good, accurate, existing information on our businesses, some of whom are going to change quite rapidly in the next year as some survive and some don't. But
Correct.
we need to start somewhere.
Right. So, yeah.
Okay.
But again, ask Controller Galperin, because again, I'm going to guess he has it already somewhere.
I will ask that question.
Yes.
Let's see. Going back to our agenda. Let's see. We are.
Well, going back to the agenda, I have all these notes of things that sound, that I put in the chat, that sound like things that are elements of goals, not so much mission statement, but goals. The mission statement that we actually have approved whenever it was that we established this committee all those years ago. It's kind of a mission statement description. The committee, shall interface with business stakeholders, comma, engage in beautification, comma, and help improve our business corridors. I mean, I'm sort of writing it out loud because the actual thing that I had missed a few of those ands, commas, and alsos. But is that still the mission, the broad mission statement? Because this has to happen on Thursday, the approval of the mission statement. The list of goals, I think you guys can work on for a while. I don't think anyone's going to assume that with one meeting you can finalize your goals.
Is it premature to add a sentence to that part of our mission is to promote the creation of both P-bids and bids for the long term?
Well, that's up to you guys. I mean, in other words, if that's what I'm asking you. I mean, what I'm saying is we've got, I posted a lot of our chat in the chat. Are you able to create something for Thursday night that's more extensive than the existing short one? I have no problem with you adding to it. It's just that there's a lot of goals.
Something specific into it that it's not, the general is good, but I think it's good to raise the bar and try to put some specific element that we really put our shoulders to try to see if we can move the needle on. Mm-hmm. If that's of interest to everyone else.
Yeah, present. Hugo has his hands hand up.
Yeah, I agree with what Chris was saying about having something specific. Maybe what I think would be good, there's a couple of us mentioned it with, I guess it doesn't really make sense to put that we need to do a survey, because ultimately we just want to know what the businesses in the area need and what the people need. So I think maybe just kind of including in the mission, um, to improve current businesses and support them, and to also create a neighborhood that is attractive to new businesses, and that is in accordance with the goals of all the people in the boundaries. Actually, that's a little too vague right there.
Right.
But the other two, yeah, the other two basically, the other two that I said. And as for the, I feel that maybe if it ends up, if we end up finding out that maybe a bid isn't the best choice, and or that we could use some other system, then maybe that might be okay, instead of locking ourselves into having a bid in the mission, because ultimately a bid is just a vehicle for us to get the goals that we want.
Right. Hand up.
Laura?
Yeah, I mean, some years ago, we here in the community, it was pre-UNNC, so it wasn't a UNNC thing, but we had a presentation from the National Trust about the National Trust Main Street program. And it was really interesting, really compelling. And part of what they did at the time, I don't even know if there still is a Main Street program, but they would create a small business resource center. Now, I don't think if there's any vacant city property at this moment in time, that anyone's going to let us propose using it to create a small business resource center rather than a place where homeless people can lay their heads for the moment. But I think in the mission, it would be more like identify resources to help improve current businesses and support them. And then goals could be maybe a bid, maybe a this, maybe a that. And what I'm getting at for Thursday night, where we're supposed to be approving all the committee mission statements, a lot of the committees worked on goals, mission, and goals, but I think since this is your first meeting, it'd be really hard to finalize the goals by Thursday. But it shouldn't be that hard to draft a mission. And what I'm going to suggest, though it would not be, hang on. And Hugo put his hand back up, I think.
Hugo?
No, sorry about that.
Okay.
Paul's got his up. Paul?
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that I ignored the typo, but I threw in
Right.
a modified mission statement.
Right.
Maybe that'll be a good boilerplate starting point.
That'd be great.
Great.
I mean, in other words, I'm just saying we're kind of jumping quick, but that's okay.
So with the approval of those present, can we agree that the suggestions and comments from our chats can be distilled and distributed by Laura for our final for a
Yeah,
final-
I'll edit a little, and yes.
a little editing that we can be shared with members present, and we'll have a mission. We'll agree on through our edit on the mission statement for Thursday's meeting. Is that can people raise their hand if they're in agreement with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Hunter, you okay with that? We saw
Yeah,
that?
that's fine.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's just a minor thing about I guess just the boundaries. Are all the parts of UNNC considered to be Greater West Adams
Yeah,
or all of them? Okay.
yeah. So yeah, Hugo, the actual, well, whoever wrote Greater West Adams, the West Adams district, which now is referred to as the historic West Adams district because it's a century later, is basically, it's quite large. It goes beyond UNNC, but it is basically the 110 freeway to West Boulevard and basically Olympic to Exposition. It's very large with distinct neighborhoods. But why our name, the United Neighborhoods of the historic, we couldn't list every single neighborhood name. So we did Arlington Heights, then we said West Adams just to grab everybody, and Jefferson Park because it's so large, Communities Neighborhood Council. But it obviously incorporates Harvard Heights and Angeles Vista and West Adams Avenues and Kinney Heights. So yeah, Greater West Adams. The only trouble with saying it just like that is that the area to our west has adopted the name that was never theirs because West Adams was better for them than the Crenshaw district. So,
Thank you, Valentine.
so if we want, so however you want to say it, I don't think it matters, that part. But if it's UNNC, it would be attract new businesses, I think, to the UNNC footprint would be,
Yeah, so we swap it out.
yeah.
And
So-
thank you.
One of the things that I would, at least before we part, is I see sort of a two-way focus, is that yes, we want to look at what the needs of our businesses are and how to support them, but we also, I hope, want to make our business community aware of what our community wants to see in our businesses. We want our business, our community wants to see well-maintained, successful businesses, but we also want to see businesses that contribute to the beautification and the quality of life for everyone in the area. So it is a two-way street, and I hope as we go forward we can make sure we address both sides of that equation. Is there any other comments before we close tonight's meetings?
Only that the third item, we don't have to do it, is because I don't think you're ready for it, is discuss future meeting topics, but we're already 45 minutes over time.
Exactly.
Still pretty early compared to governing
Well,
board
yeah.
I don't want to repeat that mistake.
Indeed, and no matter how I try, it's like, guys, I don't want to keep adding stuff to the agenda. So I'm trying to make this Thursday's meeting reasonable in length because I already know the April meeting is going to be a bear. So I'm trying to make March just a little more reasonable as best as I can.
Yeah, don't worry, Laura. I wasn't blaming
no.
you for that.
It's a horror. I actually had to put in an email to someone. I said, well, can we do a presentation on Thursday? It's like, no. Well, why not? It's like, because I'm trying not to break the record of how many times we can have board meetings go to 11 o'clock or after. It's like, give me a break. Like one meeting that's not that late.
Well, to be effective, I think our goal should be to be efficient, and being able to keep our meetings to reasonable durations are important to me. So if there are not further comments, can we?
Well, yeah, but I do realize I do have a further comment, because the thing for April, no, because you should know
I'm
this.
smiling a nice smile, Laura.
The big item for April does impact economic development potentially in our community, because there is a proposal, and this will have it on the April agenda, request for our support to co-name Crenshaw Boulevard from the 10 freeway down to our city, to Inglewood for Malcolm X. So it was a 90-minute discussion at Planning and Zoning, so I don't imagine it's going to be a short discussion at Governing Board. And that has impact for business interests, they are proposing it as a co-name, not a rename. So that people.
I'm sorry, can you clarify that? Like
No,
where
I
would that be
can't.
exactly?
Oh, we could have our own 90-minute discussion. No, the clarification is that they changed the proposal to co-naming because there was already opposition from the business community to a renaming after anybody, a major business corridor, because everyone would have to change their websites, the name change. And so they're not suggesting that exactly. They're not now suggesting co-naming, so it would have two names. I don't know how that would work.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just saying. So
So noted. So
March
noted.
decent meeting. That's all I am trying to say. Because I
Duly
know
noted for the April.
this is controversial.
Are there any other comments from others present?
So if you guys want to save the chat, although I will edit an email, if you don't have it up now, go down to the bottom of your black screen with your cursor, click on chat, and then if you go down to the bottom of that box, you'll see 3 little dots. And if you click the 3 little dots, you can save the chat. Click save chat, and then it'll be on your own computers. And okay, and lovely to see everybody. Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Well, thanks everyone for coming. Appreciate.
And
Thank you, everyone.
And you guys are declaring the meeting over, right?
Yes, but I can't find
Yeah.
the little thing to
Thank
do
you.
on the chat.
Oh, well, I'm not ending the meeting quite yet. So if you open the chat box down at the bottom where you could write a chat to someone, to everyone, or to where you
Yep.
do the write to, look
Yep.
all the way to the right
I
over
got
there.
it.
See the Word file, and then you see a box with 3 dots in it.
Yep.
And you click on the
Okay,
3 dots.
got it. Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Okay.
I'm gonna leave.
Hey. Always saw that.